once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Welcome back to the Non-Negotiables podcast. This is part 2. Just before we get on to the good parts, let's just touch on a couple of the more iffy parts from Sunday, because we weren't perfect. There's no doubt about that. There were a couple of performances that I just thought were off. The first one is, my God, Martin Odegaard. Like, obviously, everyone knows I'm an Odegaardist. I am a firm believer in Odegaardism. But some of his passing was well off on Sunday, and I know he took a whack on the head early, and some people have suggested that there may have been a little bit of fuzzy head syndrome going on. I can't explain some of the passes, particularly the one where we were on the break, and he turned to his left and just gave the ball away when we were on a break. I've not seen him do stuff like that before, ever. Off the ball, I thought he worked as hard as ever. But there were just a few things with his game that weren't quite right.
Yeah. I wasn't I didn't think Odegaard had the best game, to be honest. I thought he was one of our, and I can't believe I'm saying this, by the way. Don't think I'm giving him a hard time, but yeah, I thought Odegaard was a bit shaky today, or this game, and man, I don't know. We saw him do a lot of things that we don't normally see him do. He gave the ball away a lot, and I think it was mostly first half. But what do you think? What do you think was the reason? I looked at it as him trying really, really hard, trying to force it almost, but just not being able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think also when you don't have the ball for long periods and you're defending like that, I think it can be hard to transition sometimes. And, obviously for me, he's been the best player in the league this season. So I'm definitely not going to slag him off for a game that we won. And again, like I said, off the ball, I thought he was excellent, worked hard as ever. He's always in position. He's always leading. It was just one of them games where it didn't really come off for him. I think he's more than anything else. Paz, left back, continues to be a problem. I don't think it's getting solved this season, but I thought Tomiyasu was really, really shaky. I thought Kulusevski absolutely roasted him for most of that first half. Actually, everything Spurs did came down that side. And once again, if that wasn't Tomiyasu on his back, if that was Zinchenko on his back, people would be going absolutely nuts about it. Fortunately, I don't think that we're going to be up against a winger that's going to cause him that type of problems in the last 3 games, I wouldn't imagine.
Who is it for you?
Anthony?
Well, Rashford,
Anthony.
Isn't it? It's Rashford from that side, isn't it? From there.
Well,
no, they're right. No, it's
Anthony,
or maybe Garnacho. Yeah. I don't know, whoever it is. But I don't see them giving him the same sort of problems because Madueke gave him some real problems against Chelsea as well.
Yeah, he did.
And I don't see the threat as being the same. But I think something has to be done there, right? Left back. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the players we have at the club are not the answer. I know there's still a lot of talk out there about Timber, and I get the excitement about Timber. I just don't think he's a left back. And I think there was some numbers going around on Twitter where when you look at when they play left back, the average touch with the left and the right foot. For Tomiyasu, it's 75-25 with a right foot bias, which is already quite a lot. With Timber, it's an 85-15 bias to the right foot. So Timber really doesn't have much of a left foot at all, or he doesn't use it. There is no, I've heard some people say Timber's two-footed. He's really not. He's very right-footed. I'm not sure he's the answer there either.
No, I would like Timber really more as someone who can rotate with Ben White, to be honest, on the right-hand side, because I think the right-hand side he's more effective. Also, central defense is somewhere where he's played.
I thought you were about to say Cedric. Sorry.
No, Cedric. Sorry, yeah. Although, how is he? I don't know anything about that guy. What's going on with him?
Should we maybe send out a search party for Cedric?
I think we
put
should.
something out on Twitter. See if
No,
anyone's seen him.
He's there. He's still in all the.
No,
trailers.
I was going to
usually-
say he wasn't in the celebrations, was he? On Sunday, I was worried about the man.
He's usually in the photo with Martinelli and Vieira, though, isn't he? In the training pictures, you always see him there.
As long as he's all right, that's all.
Yeah, as long as he's all right. I would say Timber's more kind of a right back. He can play central defense. Obviously, he's done that for the Netherlands as well. I think that you look at the amount of games Ben White's playing and apparently he's got a knee issue as well. So having a Timber coming in, I think for games, and not just selective games, I think you could easily, with the amount of games we're going to be having next season again and the Champions League and all of that, you can easily have Timber playing in a Champions League game with Ben White playing in a weekend game. I think that's where he needs to be. As for Tomiyasu, yes, as a left back cover, but I think we definitely need to address that position. It does seem likely Zinchenko. It's not really by anything that's telling me any viable news source, but you just get a feeling that it might be his last season with us.
I think he's going. I've heard Bayern Munich linked. I think he needs to go, and I say this as a big Zinchenko fan. I think he needs to go. I think the time is just gone.
I feel, Gab, to be honest, I'm sure Justin agrees as well. And I know you're a big advocate for Zinchenko, and I've always liked him as a player. I think he's definitely changed the way that we've played since he's come to the club. I think he's a fantastically skillful, gifted fullback. And I think the criticism he gets is sometimes can be over the top, especially from our fans. Some of the, suddenly the short memories come into play of the times when he's been outstanding for us. But it does seem to indicate that Arteta's not fully trusting him.
Yeah,
and that's probably the case with all of our
left back, he's basically unusable at this point in the season, and that's not a situation that can continue. So I think we've got to move him on. But I just think what we've seen out of Tomiyasu the last few weeks, Tomiyasu got built up while he was out. And after that one game against Liverpool, he kind of got built up in people's minds. I've said this before, as being like 1995 Paolo Maldini. And that's not what he is. Like Tomiyasu is a very good sub. Tomiyasu should not be in a first 11 for this team. A bit like Leandro Trossard, who we'll touch on in a second, who is an excellent sub, a great player to come off the bench. But Leandro Trossard cannot be starting for this team. It needs to be not in the biggest games. I think you just need more than that. And I think that's where we're at with Tomiyasu. I love Tomiyasu. I think he's great to have in the squad when he's fit. I wouldn't have given him that contract, but not because I don't think he's a good player. I wouldn't have given him that contract because I don't think he's available enough.
Yeah, I don't know what your next question is going to be, but yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think he's along the lines of Trossard in that regard, as being a secure substitute.
Yeah.
And
that's fine, right? That's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
you need those players.
Fine.
Those players are vital.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we see it in City all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree 100% with regards to the contract. And as much as I love Tomiyasu, and I love him. I probably wouldn't have given him a long-term contract with his injury record.
Yeah, I think that's fair comment. I don't see anyone can really argue against that. So to touch on the better side of this game now, because I do think there were some really good individual performances, and I think we need to start with Ben White, who's been phenomenal in 2024. He had a little dip a couple of weeks ago where he had a couple of games where maybe he wasn't quite outstanding, but I think for the rest of 24, he's been one of the standout players in this team. I think he's been brilliant. And Paz, he was fantastic again yesterday. The energy, the desire, the way he defends, the way he can go forward. Obviously, we all love the funny shit that he does with a goalkeeper on corners, but it's his entire game. He's the total package.
Yeah, he's the type of player, is hated by everyone else. You'd probably hate him if he was on the opposition team.
Really hated by everyone else. And he should be too. He should be.
Yeah, and we'd hate him if he was on another team. Let's be 100%. Honest.
Yeah, he's earned it.
Yeah, but
I love him. I love him.
Yeah, he's, as for a player on our team, he does, it's not just the shithousery and the entertainment we get from him, but he's actually a really gifted
tremendous
defender.
footballer. Brilliant.
Incredibly tremendous footballer, great player on the field. A lot of our play, that comes on the right hand side with Saka and Ben White, the synergy that they have together. It's difficult to find that. I love him. I think he was superb again, and he's one of these unsung heroes. He doesn't get mentioned that much, and that's not because we don't rate him. It's just there's so many outstanding players in our squad and our team that sometimes he gets missed, and obviously defenders sometimes don't always have the news, so to speak, as the more advanced players. But he's just part of that back four. He's a mainstay at the moment. He's just absolutely brilliant. And I think it's England's massive loss not having him, but our gain because he now gets a full summer where he can just rest, which is definitely needed.
Yeah, 100%. My man of the match from the weekend, which seemed to differ from just about everybody else's, but my man of the match from the weekend was Bukayo Saka. I thought he was phenomenal.
He was
one thing that doesn't get talked about.
He was really
one
good.
thing that don't get talked about with Bukayo Saka, and I've noticed this for years, and I don't know why no one mentions it. His control is possibly the best I've ever seen. I don't know I've ever seen someone never have a bad touch when the ball's fired at him from 50 yards away. Like Raya fires the ball at him from 50 yards and he just brings it down and kills it dead. Juz, have you ever seen anything like this from a player his size?
No, Gav, I don't think so. He does have ridiculous control for a player his size. And he's not some like hulking giant or anything, but I mean,
he's like a little ball though, isn't he? Like you cannot get the ball off him.
Yeah, he's a very solid body, and he fights for everything, but his control is ridiculous, and that touch inside to get that shot is like almost otherworldly at this point. It's not necessarily Arjen Robben, but I'm sure there's somebody. Is there somebody is doing that?
I don't know. I don't know who you're thinking of, but to me, it's not even that. It's the control. It's the way a dropping ball out of the air, he can just kill it stone dead without looking at many. And you expect it every crossfield pass. You just expect he's going to be perfectly on his toe.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. There was one player that he didn't play the same position as him, so I'm not making parallels between the two position wise. But I think the only player I can think of that was also similar size, maybe even smaller, was Romario. Romario had the touch of sublime touch, and it didn't matter where the ball came. He just had it stuck to his foot. I think that's the only one that I can think of was of a similar size that had that incredible touch. But it was phenomenal. That second goal was just that first touch was what led to that goal, basically. Yeah. It was so impeccably good.
Yeah, and he makes the pass look, and that was a good pass from Kai.
Yeah, it was.
But he makes the pass look better than it is a lot of the time. You know what I mean? Like that, some of them balls, you look at him, and because he does it all the time, you just take it for granted. The ball's in the air, it's going towards Saka. You know that he's just bringing it down and going with it. Like it's not bouncing off his knee and going into touch. It's just not what happens with him. It's phenomenal, and he makes the pass look better than it is a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah,
it reminds me of. Sorry, pause. Go ahead.
No. I was agreeing. You go.
I was just gonna say it reminds me a bit of Van Persie when he was here. I know different positions, but just being able to launch the ball into him and expect it in the back of the net. You know what I mean?
That's a good segue for this. So well done, Juz. No previous conversations, but perfect. So Thomas Tuchel is on record in an interview as saying that he thinks that the player that Kai Havertz can be is Robin van Persie. That's what he said in the interview. Now, I looked here and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, you nutty bastard? But there was a moment in this game where Ødegaard plays an absolutely amazing ball into the box and across it, and it's sitting there, and you're thinking with Havertz, just volley it. Left foot volley. It is sitting there. I've seen Van Persie score that goal 50 times. and he doesn't do it. He drags his foot away, and then he can't get there to control it because Kai's touch is not always great, and he couldn't get there to control it. But in that moment, the way he moved and the way he adjusted his body, although the end product wasn't there, I can kind of see what he meant. Kai, I don't want you to compare him with Robin van Persie. That was just a segue. But Paz, Kai had some game again, didn't he? I mean, I thought he was phenomenal. He was giving them problems all day. He scored a goal that was unfortunately offside. Then he scored from the corner. I thought he was a nuisance the entire day for them. I know he's most people's man of the match, and I thought he was very, very good again.
Yeah, and he's becoming in that role up front. There's not been that many games I can remember where he's been bad. He's been pretty, consistently he's been decent. And I think he's got
something like 8 goals in the last 12 games or something like that. So you can't even argue about that. The goals are coming now.
No, you can't. He gets in the right positions. He holds the ball up well. He brings us that height up front, the strength, the holding of the ball. Look, Jesus, is great at holding the ball. We know that. He's wonderful at bringing players into play, but also I think the height helps, especially with corners, set plays. We have become, experts at that. He's part of that, I think. But also just his all-round connection with the players. And this is a player that's obviously a confidence player. He's had confidence instilled in him by the manager. He can see that there's a lot of faith placed in him, in the team. So he's in a really good place. You can see that. And I think he's obviously liked by the team. He's liked by the players, the manager, of course. But yeah, I thought he was outstanding. And I thought, obviously, the Chelsea game, we saw signs of him in the Chelsea game of a number 9 that can latch onto passes and score goals as well. So I think that side of him is coming out a little bit more. The side of, getting onto the end of a pass and putting the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, I think he's been pivotal in our form in 2024.
Just before we wrap up on this game, because I think we've done most of it now, is there anything else you want to add on this?
No, I don't think so, Gaff. I think the result was fair. I think the imagined controversy is just part of like a close derby game. I think that's the point I'd like to drive home the most. I think if it went 3-2 Spurs, we'd be kind of offering that just to be a totally neutral in this. But no, I think it was a well-won game, and I think we made it a little more touchy than it should have been. But I mean, we won. I think it was pretty clear we were the better team. I think the only thing I'd like to say is that before the Raya mistake, I thought Arsenal, the team was very, very casual. Like,
I think we were relaxed. I mean, I honestly think without that mistake, that game ends 5 or 6.
Yeah,
I just don't see any other way around. That was the only way they were ever going to score.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of Spurs fan dialogue saying that they dominated the game, and I'm
but they don't understand what they're watching. I think that's what it comes down to. They're a very naive team.
Of course.
And you know what they remind me of a little bit? Do you remember when we went there? And I think it might have been Mikel Arteta's first derby there. And it might have been the one where Partey ran off the pitch.
We lost 2-0. Was that Mourinho?
And we had all the ball, didn't we? Remember? And Tierney hit didn't Tierney break a record with 38 crosses into the bottom or something?
Yeah,
and they were literally watching us do that and then just hammering it to Kane, Son, and who was the third player? They had them all in a row, and they were just hammering the ball and just waltzing through us, and we got beat 2-0. Was it 2-0? We got beat that day, and it kind of reminded me of that, but the other way around. That this time it was them they were so naive, and what they are, and I just think we played on that.
Yeah, I find it interesting that Spurs fans can watch our performance and not realize. I mean, we were very, very, very casual the whole time, just letting them have the ball, because why wouldn't we? We would control it, you know.
Yeah, I just think that was the game plan, and it was perfectly executed.
Exactly.
And it really would, but for that error, it would have been a very simple win. But like we said at the start, it's probably better for us that it wasn't. Paz, obviously, Man City won at Forest. I think you watched the game. I didn't.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Man
I didn't.
City games.
I did.
Manchester City supporter Chris Wood apparently missed like 3 open goals. I haven't heard Nottingham Forest's official statement about playing a Manchester City supporter against Manchester City. Did I miss that? Did their mafia boss put out a tweet about that?
No. It was.
It must be coming. It must be coming.
It's in the post.
Now there's the hit on Gab.
Yeah, it must. Maybe they're getting spell check on it or something. I'm sure that tweet is coming.
It's in the post. But I think I've come to the realization that Chris Wood cannot use his feet. He cannot use his feet. His head is the only the only weapon he has, because I don't know if you saw the chances he missed, but
I haven't seen any of it. I didn't watch it. I decided to take the dogs for a walk.
To be honest, you did the right thing in not watching it, because there's this false hope, like a Spurs fan watching these type of games, where you're hoping for something. And to be fair, Forest had a lot of chances and they dominated a lot of the game. But to expect something from it, that's what kills you when you watch these type of games, because you always have a Chris Wood to look at.
If only Forest had a Brennan Johnson.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So Man City from now, like obviously everything is moot unless they drop points. Do you know what I mean? Like they have to. We officially secured Champions League football at the weekend. Woohoo! But everything's moot unless they drop points.
But you see, Gav, just on that point, you see how we've not even talked about that?
No.
That's the difference between this season and last season, that we're not even thinking that we qualify for the Champions League.
No.
That's kind of a given.
No, that's not the target, right? Like we're not going to start next season saying we've got to get in the top 4. That's not the target. The target is the title.
No.
Yeah,
sorry, man. You were saying.
Well said, boss.
Yeah, it does 100%. It shows exactly how far we've come and what a short period of time we've done it in. But like I said, we need Man City to drop points somewhere. It's a big ask. They've got Wolves at home on Saturday. They've got Fulham away the following Saturday. Then they go to the Toilet Bowl on the Tuesday, and then they've got West Ham at home on a Saturday. I don't know.
I don't think they're easy though, Gav, because I know. Look, maybe it's false hope.
You think the away games are going to be the tougher ones?
Yeah,
like Fulham and Tottenham away. I can't see the home games being an issue.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, West Ham on their day can be a pain in the arse.
They're going to be on holiday though, aren't they? I mean, their manager's
can.
Probably going to be halfway out the door. I don't think you're going to get a performance off there. Put it this way: if we go into the last day with Man City knowing if they win, they're champions, there'll be 100-1 on.
Well, the only thing that sometimes I don't always go by the notion that their team has nothing to play for. That's why nothing will happen.
Well, sometimes there's no pressure to perform, right?
Yeah,
and you haven't got any stress on you. So
true.
You can play with freedom.
True. And I mean, we played Fulham this season. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't say that, but towards, what was it? When we lost to them.
I think that is actually, if it's going to happen, I think it's more likely to happen there than at the Toilet Bowl.
That's my thinking, because I think Fulham are very, very. They're one of these teams that again can have their day.
I agree, boss.
Yeah, they can cause problems. Wolves, I don't worry too much about. I agree with you. I think they got a lot of injury problems. We faced them and they weren't particularly effective. West Ham can, with their attack, can cause problems. They have. I think
what you're hoping for, right, is Man City having a day where they have 31 shots and none of them go in, right? Like, didn't they lose against Forest last season? Was it when
they drew,
missed 2? And he missed 2 like open goals and stuff. That's kind of what you're hoping for. Like, none of these teams are going to beat Manchester City by both teams playing well. Right. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What you want or what you need is Man City to miss a fuck ton of chances and the other team take one.
Or possibly, Gav, like the game against Forest, where they weren't that good, and then the other team takes their chances. Now, Fulham have that Munoz. Is it Munoz? I think the Brazilian guy up front who's in really good form for them. So, we've got a much better striker there than Chris Wood. West Ham, I'm not counting on it. I agree with you, but they do have Kudus, they do have Bowen, they do have Antonio, they can cause problems. Paquetá.
Yeah, Paquetá.
And then Spurs, I'm not going to count on them for anything. But if they're in it for the top four, they do have Man City's number. So
like we've been saying, that is the only hope, right?
Yeah,
is that they're really fighting for that full blade. The problem is where that game's fallen for us, really, because it's fallen at a point where they could theoretically be out of it. They might have nothing to play for. They've got really tough fixtures coming up. Villa. I mean, there is a chance that Villa will slip up as well. I mean, they've got Olympiacos at home on Thursday, and then they go to Brighton. That's not going to be easy for them. I know Brighton are probably shit.
Yeah, Brighton's not.
But you're after a European game, it's never that easy. And then they've got the Olympiacos away game and Liverpool at home. Liverpool obviously have got nothing to play for at this point as well. So I don't know, but there is a chance that Villa can maybe lose a couple of games and open that door and have something to play for. But at the same time, if Villa go win at Brighton, then it's pretty much done.
I think we need Spurs to beat Chelsea.
We absolutely do. Yeah, Chelsea.
And I think their record against Chelsea is appalling in the Premier League.
It's away as well, right? I think it's away. Stamford Bridge. And I think we need them to get a result there, because if they don't, I think this is as good as over, really, for them.
Yeah, I would say.
But like I said, that's not really where I'm.
We've got Man United away.
Yeah,
whatever way
it's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, the biggest part is that we don't throw it away. I can handle this if we win.
If we win out
3 games.
If we win,
what happens?
I feel.
Do you know what I mean? I can't. Even if we win out, City draw one, but they beat West Ham 9-0 at home in the last of our season, and we lose out on goal difference. It will hurt, but what more can you do at that point? Do you know what I mean? Like I will accept that.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying though that if we get 89 points, isn't that Invincibles?
90.
90. Yeah.
90 was Invincibles.
90 was the Invincibles. Yeah.
Wow, to miss that by just 1 point at the end of the season is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were on pace for it last year, and I think from the start of 2024, we're actually on pace for a 101 point season. That's the form we've been in since the turn of the year. 101 points.
You're right. I saw that too.
It's crazy. I mean, I tell you what. However this season ends, I'm very confident that we're going to win a title going into next season. I really am. We will start, in my mind, as favourites next season. We might not start that way at the bookies. I think it will be close. But I think Man City will start a favourite at the bookies. But in my mind, we start next season. I think we're the best team. I think we'll start next season as favourites. We lost this title. We've said this so many times. We lost this title in the first half of the season. You cannot lose 4 games before New Year because you've seen the points total that we're the points pace that we're on, and it might not be enough.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's like there's clear negative slide with City, right? Like Kevin De Bruyne is kind of on the decline. Rodri is kind of on the.
Rodri's funny because Rodri's only 27. Like Rodri, you think Rodri's older than he is, and he's not. But Rodri's not been great. He's got this whole thing going on where he's got this unbeaten streak that isn't really an unbeaten streak because they lost to Real Madrid, but they're pretending it's an unbeaten streak. He's got that whole thing going on, but he's not been great. Against Palace, he was abysmal. They could have lost against Palace because of how bad he was, and he was bad again against. Who did I watch him against? I watched him against someone. Who did they brush past? Not Forest. Who did they play before Forest? Was it Brighton? Yeah, Brighton. It was Brighton. And he wasn't good against Brighton either. And Ciso had a chance where he just gift-wrapped him. And so I don't think Rodri's been infallible this year. But I mean, you can't say he's on a decline. He's 27. But I don't think he's been infallible this year.
Yeah. No doubt. I'm not saying he's infallible. I just think he gives so much to City when he starts.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
wouldn't choose anybody else. I just think for
Yeah, of
him,
course.
he's just in a little bit of a bad run of form, which
Yeah.
coincides with this thing. He's been unbeaten in 400 days, which again he hasn't, because otherwise they would have been playing tonight. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but they weren't playing tonight, so they did actually lose. But yeah, I take your point in that they do have a few players that are kind of coming to the other end. We know about the transition that's going on at Liverpool. I think Liverpool were quite clearly the third horse in this 3-horse race the whole way through. I think they probably stayed in this race longer than maybe they deserved to. But fair play to them for sticking it out as long as they could. But you've got, I see Van Dijk was linked with a move away today. Klopp is obviously going. I've even seen Alisson linked to a move away, and that would kill them. I think Alisson is the one. Salah's 32 now. I wouldn't, you wouldn't be surprised really if they cashed in and tried to move on there. But I think Alisson would kill them if Alisson left. I just don't think he's replaceable for what you would get.
Yeah, this guy's got a big job with Liverpool. I think there's the dynasty is over now. I think they're gonna.
Yeah, they're in full rebuild mode. Let's not get around the bush.
Edwards is back though. Marcus Edwards is back.
Yeah, he's back, but he's back, but he's
Arne Slot isn't. I mean, he's a solid manager, but he's no Klopp. But
well, it's going to be interesting there because the way it is, he's obviously going to be the head coach. Michael Edwards is like
boss. I didn't mean to.
Michael Edwards is like the head of the group, right? He's not actually their sporting director.
Yeah, he'll be a head coach.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Michael Edwards. They've brought him back because they're trying to go down the multi-club route, and he wants to sit on top of the kingdom. They've actually got someone else in as the sporting director. It's not him that's doing that job. He's not back in the same capacity he was before. He's now like a director of the actual group that are looking to buy multiple football clubs. So I'm interested to see where this goes. And there's another point, and Paz, you've seen this on another group we're in. There's a Man United supporter that's absolutely convinced that because they're bringing in Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox, that all of a sudden Man U are going to be the best team in the world because they're bringing in a couple of admins. And I just want to say that we tried this, right? And I thought for years that the way we needed to go was a director of football that did the players and a head coach that did it. And it failed spectacularly for us. It really did fail badly. And that convinced me that although that works at clubs like Real Madrid, although that works at Barcelona, and it would probably work at Chelsea, clubs where you change your manager every 12 or 18 months, where you really need players to fit the club and then get the coach to fit the style. That's not us. That's not most English teams. Most English teams, the manager builds the team in his style, and therefore he needs his own players. I'm not convinced that this sporting director of football model is the way to go in England.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think for us it didn't work. I think Man United, if you're going to have a look at Man United as an example, there are parallels between, we talked about this before, parallels between how a lot of the failures that we made, that they're going through that at this current time. In fact, their failures are over a much longer period. I feel they've been awful in the transfer market. They're regressing immensely, and they're now morphing into sometimes Spurs kind of supporters.
Yeah, it's weird. They're in that stage, and then Chelsea are in a really expensive version of our Project Youth that failed.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny how these parallels are working out. Obvious, and the thing is, like, obviously our Project Youth was a lot more successful than their Project Youth because we were still finishing in the top 4 during them days, whereas Chelsea are obviously sitting in 10th all season.
Yeah, and then obviously the manager as well. It's not working out for them. I mean, I know Justin and I bigged him up and thought he'd done well at Ajax, but I think he's been pretty bad for them. Yeah, I mean his football has been awful. But I think they've got big. Them Chelsea, I think they're a long way behind, and I don't see any silver lining at all at the moment. I don't see anything that tells me that they've turned a corner. I think it's far from that. I think it's going back to Man United of old.
Yeah, I think what it says really is the door is wide open for us, right? Yeah. It is wide open. We don't know what's going to happen with 115 charges. Yeah. We don't know what sort of punishment City are going to get, but we are in prime position.
And we've not
of
even
all
hit
the
peak.
clubs.
Gav.
Oh, not even close.
When
The average
Liverpool-
age of our squad is
Yeah.
still 25.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
Liverpool were at their pomp, Salah was like 27.
I was going to say
28.
they had older
Van
players. than we
Dijk,
did.
the same. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
they
got
had
Well
Saliba
said.
at 22.
Well said.
Yeah, we've
Well
still
said.
got. They're not even hitting peak yet. They're
Yeah,
way
I think
behind.
we've probably
for
got
that.
Odegaard.
another- we've
Yeah,
probably got-
Odegaard.
I mean, Liverpool's peak was what, 4 years it lasted, I
Yeah.
guess. We've probably
Yeah,
got
4 years.
2 years more than
Yeah.
them. So we've probably got 6 to 7 years of this group. I think the only thing that can, and touch wood, this doesn't happen, but I think the only thing that could knock us off is I think there's 2 players that we could lose that would knock us off, and that's Odegaard and that's Saliba. I think
Yeah.
if we can hold those 2,
Odegaard, I don't feel. Sorry, go ahead, Gav. I didn't.
you don't feel like we could lose him, you mean?
Yeah, I think Odegaard's here. Saliba, though, I agree, but I didn't mean
I
to
think
get
you've got. I think the
but-
biggest clubs are going to be sniffing around, but I
Well,
think
this
that's
means-
the only thing that derails this. Really, is
This
if
means we would
lose a
have
couple
to
of
win
these players.
something. We'd have to win a
we
big
do.
trophy.
We do.
Next
We
year.
absolutely do.
Next year.
Absolutely do.
Absolutely.
If we don't
I guess-
win multiple big trophies with this group, it's a failure.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is who's bigger than us right now? It's Real Madrid and City, and that's damn near it.
Yeah, I mean, you
Mhm.
can still argue
Like,
Bayern and
unequivocally,
Barcelona. I mean,
right?
the fact that
Unequivocally.
Barcelona have got no money
No.
is
Fuck
Yeah.
them, honestly.
but you still can't argue against it unless we're winning stuff. Then until we start winning stuff, then I think we're vulnerable. Once we start winning stuff, I think we become Kevlar.
Mm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, lads. Well, thank you very much for episode 100. Thank you for
100.
coming all the way back, Pass, and joining
Been a
us.
pleasure.
And,
Been a
Oh,
pleasure.
it was great. It was great having you here, mate.
We'll do it
I
more
missed you.
often.
I missed you.
Yeah, thank you. All right,
Likewise,
and
boys.
guys, thank you for listening,
Cheers,
and
Jess.
we will speak to you again towards the end of the week, and look forward to the
Perfect.
weekend. So,
Sounds good.
all right, good night, everybody.
Good
Night.
night. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, just a couple of quick halftime messages for you. Firstly, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us reach a wider audience, particularly on Apple Podcasts. Secondly, we're on all the social media platforms as the NN Pod. We're really trying to build a strong Gooner community. So next time you're on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, look us up, give us a like or a follow, send us a message, interact with other listeners, or just have a look around. Thanks for listening from myself, Paz, and Juz. We really appreciate it. Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiables podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here tonight with Justin. How you doing, Juz?
I'm good, Gav.
Good, mate. And back after 5 months working on the International Space Station, where he was repairing a broken DVD player so the astronauts could watch all 6 series of Dawson's Creek. It's Pascal. Welcome back, Paz.
What's up? What's up? What's up? It was a sabbatical, I like to call it.
Hey, you're doing God's work.
I love that. I love that. I've not heard that one yet, Gav. That's a good one.
All right, so welcome back, Paz. And what a great time to come back. And funnily enough, we were talking about it just before we came on air. There's some brilliant synergy with this because our very first episode was after the North London derby that we won when Partey rocketed one into the top corner last season. So we are bringing it full circle. So this is episode 100. And what a way to celebrate. So much to talk about from this game, from the weekend past. Let's start with this. Why are all these Spurs fans taking glee and posting their L's on Twitter? I've seen videos of Saka getting abused before setting up the first and then turning around and celebrating with them. I've seen Rice getting abused before celebrating the third right in their faces. I've seen Perry Groves celebrating in a radio gantry filmed from the home end while a load of their fans lose their shit. What the fuck is going on?
It's one of those baffling things about football fans nowadays, isn't it? Because I think we spoke about this the last North London derby at their toilet bowl when they did the same thing. They were doing the videos of them watching the game and then the disappointment. I mean, it's great viewing for us, obviously. It's wonderful because you see Spurs fans happy in moments then a goal's ruled out. It's just it's one of the there's many things in life that we take pleasure in, but that has got to be up there. And then seeing them lose as well, which is just wonderful. As to why they would post something which makes them look worse than what they look, I have no idea behind why it is. Maybe it's just kind of epitomizes the modern day that we live in, that everyone is all about social media and getting as many clicks and likes at the detriment to themselves. I don't know, but or perhaps they know that social media Arsenal is so big that by doing that, they're getting themselves some more, I don't know, infamy or notoriety. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's so strange, but at the same time, extremely funny. And one of the things I actually get a lot of gratification in seeing, besides the game itself, obviously.
Just the collective losing of the shit from Spurs fans since the game has been fucking wonderful, hasn't it? I mean, you've got a goal that was ruled out for offside, mainly because it was clearly fucking offside, and they're all losing their shit about it. You've got Ben White messing with a goalkeeper's glove before the corner, which was hilarious. But before the corner, while the ball isn't in play, and let's be fair, all he's done is flicked his glove, and they're all going nuts about it. I've seen them wanting a penalty because Trossard has legs. Apparently, that's the only reason I can think that they want it, because Trossard didn't make his legs disappear. I think it's been fantastic.
Yeah, mate. I mean, you couldn't really ask for better. So before I jumped on this podcast, I have a very, very, very close friend who's unfortunately a Spurs supporter. And I asked him, I said, mate, just for the sake of the pod, I'm not trying to debate or anything. Would you tell me, what the most debatable call was for you? And he couldn't really even give me an answer. I mean, he rambled on about multiple calls, but I find it just hilarious. I mean, because they can complain about so much, but really, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think?
There's no valid complaints, are there, Paz? Did you see anything in any of them, right? The offside goal was offside. There was not even a hint of a foul by Trossard. I don't even know where that came from. I don't see what they can possibly complain about, really.
I don't either.
I think maybe the Trossard one, there was more debate, I could say. I'm not saying whether or not I didn't think it was a penalty, but I can see how there was a little bit, at least an opinion of that, and you could possibly put some form of substance towards that opinion and saying, look, he did go down. I mean, there was a crossing of the legs, etc. But there was nothing else I could look at in that game besides them complaining, which I've seen in some of their crappy videos, that they're complaining that we're a glorified Stoke, they called it, because we basically don't deserve the title because we're a glorified Stoke. We just defend, and we've come against Tottenham. So he's basically insulted his own team, because he goes, they come here against us, Spurs, and they defend like that, as if, they've no intention to really win. They just want to counter. That's all. That's the arguments I'm seeing. And that it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful to see. And it's hilarious.
Can I Gaff? I would just like to say, like, it was so obvious, at least in the first half, that we were letting them have the ball and do what they wanted to counter. And the fact that Spurs fans don't see that and thought that they were dominating the ball is like insane to me, because it's so clear. I mean, all our players were ridiculously casual, like especially while the score was 0-0. That I couldn't believe that they thought they were like dominating the ball.
Well, this is the thing. So let's get stuck into the game then. Paz, I thought Arteta got this spot on. I have to say, I've heard a lot of different critiques of our first half performance. For me, Tottenham are an immature team, right? They're naive, they're immature, they're not a serious team. That's what it comes down to. we were quite happy to let them have the ball because we know that the way they try and create chances is to literally just run at you. Like it's just kamikaze stuff. So we let them do it and then picked them off. They can't defend set pieces. That goalkeeper has been a problem all year from set pieces. We're obviously, it's one of our strengths. Did we do anything other, Paz, than exactly what we should have done there?
No, I think what, of course, our set pieces is something that gets the headlines because it's just so effective, isn't it? I mean, if you look at some of the analysis over the weekend, which I thought was really interesting, I think it was it Match of the Day, were about how the way we line up, and still teams are not understanding how we're doing it and how we're running in last minute into the box, how effective it is. But also, if you want to look at how impressive we were, which negates this glorified Stoke nonsense, was our second goal. Because what happens is we didn't cower down or get nervous when there were these penalty claims. We got the ball, but the way we moved that ball so quickly out of their half, then to Havertz, for Saka to make the run, and then that's it, over to Saka and then goal. That for me is like a team which is one, mature, two, championship quality. Like that is Premier League quality. We'd seen it many times with Liverpool against us at the Emirates, where where we would be having a lot of the possession, a lot of the gameplay, and then they would just punish us so effectively with a Salah or a Jota or one of these guys on the break. We're doing that to these teams. It's hard for them to accept it, and it's hard for them to accept that this is an Arsenal that is not just strong on the attack, but fucking mentally tough and great defensively. It's a problem for these guys. It's not something they can accept.
Well said.
And the shape that we take up defensively, Judge, I've not seen defending like this from us since the George Graham days, right? I know we had some good defences under Wenger, but that tended to be predicated more on man-to-man defending. We had defenders that were just bigger, stronger and quicker than you, and that was what a lot of it was. This is all about shape. It's all about tactics. We drop into a 4-4-2. Ødegaard and Havertz press from the front, but they only press when they need to press. And when they do press, you see Rice go with them. You see the two wide players go with them. So it's all in one movement. And when they drop, everybody drops as one. It's so clever the way they do it. And it's so disciplined to be able to keep doing that for the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, the defending is insane. It almost drops into a bit of a diamond with Ødegaard and Havertz up top, and then the midfield they do what they do. I mean, I think Rice is a big part of this. This may have been a better question for Paz because I can't speak to George Graham, but I mean it's brilliant the way that we are defending right now. And the way we break too is just, it's so fast, and we're not even really a counterattacking team. But I mean, we can get that ball out to Saka or Trossard or Martinelli or whoever, and just punish teams. And we did that to Spurs a few times.
And we're like the antithesis of everything everyone always beat us for, right? Everyone always used to say, well, they've got no plan B. Well, now we've got a plan A, B, and C, and you can't even tell which one's which because we're so good at all three of them. Yeah. They're weak. Now it's us that are laying it on people. They're naive. They're immature. Now it's us that are the adults in the room. It's us that are doing the shithousing. It's us that are controlling the clock. This pass is the most grown-up team that we've had for a long, long time.
Yeah, in every sense of the word, right? Because it's a big team. Like these are men. These aren't, I didn't mean it in a disparaging way when I said in our WhatsApp group that, kind of in parentheses, but that Wenger had talented midgets. I didn't mean that in a disparaging way. I know it sounds disparaging, but we were always known of having small, intricate, skillful, creative players. And, quite justifiably, we were criticized for not having a steal, not having that kind of, not just the mental strength, but even physicality wise. And, we talk in the early 2000s, that was a different thing with Vieira there and, obviously Adams and Campbell. But when we went into into 2010, 2011 onwards, we seem to get this type of defender, which was not particularly known for the strength or midfield. It was more about creativity and this is the most powerful team I can remember us from, like George Graham days. Because
they're all two-way players. They're all two-way players, Paz.
Yeah, that's the thing as well.
That...
It's not just steel. It's not just steel, but they're skillful as well. I mean, Ben White is incredibly skillful. He's a wonderful defender, but he's also an incredibly skillful player on the ball. And the same you can say for Saliba. Gabriel gets knocked a lot, but he's also got it in him as well. And then, of course, you know, Zinchenko and Timber and so it's got the most. I think it's one of the most varied teams I can remember us having, where you've got nearly everything covered. And there's probably still more to go, obviously, which I think will happen in summer.
And it's like they had 2 shots on target this entire game. One was from a Raya mistake, and one was from a penalty and it was a penalty. I'm not saying it's not a penalty. It was 100% a penalty. But the guy's going out of the box with a ball. Like that ball is going nowhere near our goal. It's going away from the goal. Rice doesn't see him, kicks him up in the air. It is a penalty, but there's no threat from that. So that's 2 shots on target. Is all they've had is the penalty and then the Raya mistake. Juz, before that Raya mistake, Saka had obviously just had that shot saved by Vicario. I know it was going to be tight as to whether Havertz was offside or not. I've heard it both ways. Some people said he was off. Some people said he wasn't. We're never going to know, because there's never going to be any of these still frames of this, because there's no point. It didn't go in. But had that gone in, or even had Raya not made that error, I think this would have been 5 or 6. And as funny as it would have been, and as good as it would have felt immediately, just I think long term that would have been to our detriment, because at the end of the day, Man City have got 4 games left. One of them is at that ground. That is one of our last hopes of Man City doing anything. If we'd have beaten them 6-0, I think they would have just down tools and packed it in for the rest of the season. This way, with them getting the 2 goals, there's a little bit of, I mean, it's made up controversy, but at least there's a little bit of controversy where they can feel a bit hard done by. And hopefully Emery can Emery a little bit more, and Villa can throw away some more 2-goal leads and let them in a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I don't want Spurs to get 4th, but I want them to have a chance of getting 4th. Do you know what I mean? So, Juz, I think this ended up being the best result that it could have been for us at the end.
Yeah, I think we all touched on this in our group meet. But yeah, I agree. It's almost like, and I'm not suggesting we did this, because you know, no professional club would, but it's almost like we baited them, in the best possible scenario. Them, like the 3-2 win and in them having those chances, I think Spurs are gonna like fight for everything still now. But I agree, Gaff. If we'd have crushed them, you know, 6-7-0, 7-1, 6-1, whatever, I do think it would have been a different story. I don't think we could have relied on them to, you know, get a result. It maybe not at any point for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Paz, we'll touch on the right mistake. Now, you'll know my rule on this. I do not slag players for trying to play out from the back. I just don't do it. The difference with this one a little bit is that the pass was never on. If you look, and it's a really weird mistake if you look at it, because he gets the ball back and Partey is calling for the ball in the middle of 3 players, right? And it looks like he goes to play the pass, then almost tries to pull out, but can't pull out, and ends up just chipping it straight into Romero. But even if he'd have made that pass, even if he'd have somehow defied physics and got it over the top of the players closing down, Partey still had 3 players on him. So it was a silly pass to make. But like I said, I'm not going to slag him off for playing out from the back, because I'm not going to do that at all. How much of a role, though, Paz, is Partey in this? Not through any fault of his own, but through the fact that because it's Thomas Partey, you feel like you can give him the ball in any scenario. Like if that's Jorginho or that's Declan Rice, I don't think Raya's even looking for that pass.
Yeah, and I think we can also, it goes to why Partey played as well, because one of the things that we know when he's on the top of his game, which he's extraordinarily good at doing, is wriggling out of tough situations and getting that ball out quick and starting our counter attack. So yeah, that's a good point. I think Partey asking for the ball in that place probably did make Raya think that was a viable option. Then you could also perhaps say there's complacency. You're 3-0 up.
Yep.
They're not showing. I didn't think they were. The first half, I thought they were pretty decent. They had some chances. They hit the post. They obviously had an offside. That I thought they put us under pressure, but I didn't think they did much in the second half until that point.
No,
so
maybe the game was dead at that point.
Yeah.
The game was absolutely dead. Like we were looking like the team that was going to score again.
Right. So I think maybe there's an element of Raya succumbing to a complacency side and getting a little bit too cocky. And we all know when that is one of the most deadliest things to be doing in football, because it can lead to a whole different outcome, and it possibly did, because it riled them up. And we all, like, you've already spoken to this about Spurs, but one thing that Spurs fans are really known for, Spurs in general, is they celebrate mediocrity, but they also celebrate small moments.
And they love to go early, don't they? They love to celebrate early.
The celebration against Sheffield United, at the beginning of the season where they're running off and, doing all of that. They're or getting DVDs out for like big wins, but it wasn't a trophy as such. So getting Spurs back into that game, it gives them that hope. And I think that's where they pushed on and maybe caused Declan Rice a little bit of panic in that penalty. But yeah, I think there's an element of truth to that. I think Partey definitely is probably the reason why Raya looked for that. But looking back, I obviously can't have a go at the guy for playing at the back because I know that's instructions. But I also think there has to be a moment in your mind where you think, well, you're 3-0 up and, hoofing it up where Kai Havertz is more than capable of holding the ball or headering the ball. And then you've got their defender pushing up anyway.
Well, that's what I was going to say, especially seeing as they've overcommitted.
Yeah. Maybe in that circumstance, that's a little bit more common sense. But I'm not going to hammer him for that. I agree with you that there must have been a few reasons, and probably Partey was one of them.
Yeah. Just talking about Partey, there's been a lot of split opinions on this. I didn't think Partey had a very good game, actually. I thought it started in the first 90 seconds when he turned into trouble and lost the ball and almost got us in trouble straight away. And I thought there was a lot of that from Partey. And I thought what we saw on Sunday was exactly why Arteta has decided to move away from Thomas Partey. I don't think that risk is what he wants in his teams. I don't think it's any coincidence that the last two games, and it seems funny to say because we've beaten Chelsea 5-0 and we've beaten Tottenham 3-2, but Chelsea had one of the highest XGs against us that we've had all season, even though we won 5-0. And I think a lot of that is a consequence of how we play when Thomas Partey plays in that six. Do you see that as well?
Man, Gav, this is such an interesting question. I really, I like the way we play with Partey, to be honest. I do personally.
It's definitely more exciting.
It is, yeah. But I can see where Arteta's coming from as well. And no, I don't think he likes it. We are left open significantly more. I don't think there's no way to argue that. I think there are games where he can create so much that it's minimalized, but this wasn't one of those, and it makes him look worse than I think he is as a player.
Yeah, Paz, do you think we're going to be looking to try and move on in that area in the summer? Do you think, it seems today like Jorginho is signing a new contract. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but it looks like a new contract is agreed with Jorginho. Personally, I don't think you should keep Jorginho and Partey. I do think the plan is to move Partey in the summer if they can. I don't know whether they're actually going to be able to move him or not. Paz, do you think that's the plan? Move Partey on, maybe get someone else in the 6, keep Rice in the 8?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jorginho. I know you're kind of ambivalent about Jorginho, but one thing that does come across to me is I think he's quite a big character in that squad.
I agree with that.
He seems pretty humble. He seems like he's a bit of a winner. And
do you think he's
feel
played a lot more than Arteta expected this year, though, Paz? Because I don't think he was intended to be this involved.
Yeah, no, he has, and that's
I don't even.
partly due to Partey, isn't it? And maybe Zinchenko with sometimes when he's not playing,
And Havertz moving up front, where I think
Havertz
the plan
moving up
was
front,
that first choice midfield. I think, you know, when Arteta sat down pre-season, I think it was Rice, Havertz, and Ødegaard, right, was the first choice midfield, and it really hasn't worked.
Yeah, and I think Jorginho, I think we can accept is going to be more of a peripheral player. I think that, like you said, that is the intention with him. But I think he's an experienced pro to have around. He's someone that if you do have him come on or you do have him start, there isn't necessarily this worry that he's going to let you down. He's a great passer of the ball. That's one thing that you have to give him. He does open up the play. He's and I think this has been his. He came last season, but this season I think he's been decent for us. So I think Partey's going to get more value. You would think. We're not going to get a return, but we will get something which can add to getting another player. I would think that's what we're looking at. I think the injury issue is massive. We all know that Arteta does lose his patience after a while with injury-prone players. And I also think that maybe he's just we're not really seeing the Thomas Partey that we did see beginning of last season. I think it's kind of gone. So yeah, I'm pretty certain he's going to move him on. That's my feeling on it anyway.
And just do you think that we're going to be looking for a 6 rather than an 8 and keep Rice in the 8? Because that's where I'm leaning now. I didn't think like that, but the more I'm looking at this, the more I think Arteta just loves Declan Rice and what he brings in that 8, what he brings going forward as well as going backwards. That athleticism allows him to basically play in almost a box-to-box role. He's definitely the best we've got at it right now. You think maybe he's going to look for a Zubimendi type in the 6 rather than a Rice type?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Gav. I didn't think this was going to be the case, but yeah, I'm leaning more and more to the fact that maybe we are looking at Rice as an 8 and not a 6, and that is something we are going to target. We have Vieira, Smith Rowe. Depending on how attacking we're trying to be, it looks obvious, right? Like the 6 looks obvious at this point, especially if Partey goes, and I am expecting him to. By the way, I know you asked pause that, but yeah, I think Partey goes.
A question for you two, just quickly: do you see Rice developing more kind of like a Vieira? Because I see elements of it sometimes.
Which Vieira are you talking about? You're talking about Patrick
Vieira.
Yeah, okay. I thought you meant Fabio Vieira, and I go, well, how does he do that?
No, he hasn't regressed.
I kind of do. I didn't see that in him before we signed him, to be quite honest with you. But more and more, I mean, Moaning Imran said to me the other week, he wants to see, he wants to see Rice stay in that 8. He's desperate to see Rice stay in that 8 because he just thinks he offers so much more. He thinks he's wasted playing in that 6.
See, I think he's pretty much the best 6 in the second, the first or second best 6 in the world with him and Rodri. And I think he's kind of wasted in the 8. But
yeah, it's a tough one, but it's a nice problem to have when you've got someone like Declan Rice and you're just deciding where to put him. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I just, I don't know. I mean, and I'm not saying it's going to be Zubimendi, but I'm wondering if it's going to be that type, more of a younger, maybe more athletic Jorginho than a Rice. More than an all covering player. If it's going to be more of a ball player, more akin to Partey, but a bit more risk averse.
Yeah, and less injury.
I've seen Zubimendi like only 2 or 3 times, so I'm no expert, but he looked really, really class in the way that he can defend. I mean, he sweeps up in the defensive midfield and can hit long balls. I mean, he is kind of like a more mobile, more enthusiastic Jorginho.
Yeah, that's kind of the direction I see us going in. All right, lads, listen, let's come back for part two. There's plenty more to discuss about this game. We need to get into some of the better performances as well because we haven't touched on that. I know that Kai Havertz is definitely going to get some flowers, as is Ben White and Bukayo Saka in part two. So we'll come back here in a minute, and I'll see you on the other side of the break.
That's good.